My mother didn't survive the cancer that ate her from the inside out. My stepmother, Linda, was a different kind of disease, one that festered in our home after Mom was gone. And my stepsister, Cassie, was the symptom, a constant, cloying reminder of the infection. I died a quieter death than my mother, not in a hospital bed, but in the slow, agonizing erosion of my own home, my own memories, my own heart. I was a ghost in the house my mother had built, a silent witness to the dismantling of my life. I'm staring at my mother's emerald necklace. It's not in the velvet-lined box where it belongs, tucked away in the safety deposit box with the rest of her things. It's wrapped around my stepsister's throat. Cassie is preening in the center of our living room, her head tilted at an unnatural angle as a photographer she probably can't afford snaps another picture. The afternoon light, streaming through the bay windows my mother loved, catches the facets of the emeralds. They glitter against Cassie's spray-tanned skin, looking less like jewels and more like chips of green ice, cold and stolen. My hand is shaking, not just a little tremor, but a violent shudder that makes my phone clatter against my teeth. I'm clenching my jaw so hard I can hear it creak. It's the same necklace Mom wore to her last anniversary dinner with Dad. She'd been so thin, her skin almost translucent, but when she put on that necklace, she'd smiled. A real, genuine smile that had reached her tired eyes. "It makes me feel like a queen, Maya," she'd whispered to me, her voice raspy from the chemo. "Now it's making Cassie look like a cheap imitation of royalty, a pretender to a throne she has no right to." The photographer coos, "Beautiful, Cassie. Just radiant." Radiant. The word is a punch to the gut. I can still hear Linda's voice from last night, dripping with false sweetness. "Maya, darling, you were away at college. Things have been so tight, and you know how much this wedding means to Cassie. We needed to cover some of the expenses." Expenses? She called my mother's life, her legacy, expenses. The wedding is in 18 hours. 18. The number screams in my head. A countdown to the final, complete erasure of my mother. I look closer, my eyes darting from Cassie's neck to her wrists, her fingers. It's not just the necklace. It's the pearl bracelet Mom got for her 30th birthday. It's the diamond earrings that were a gift from my grandmother. It's all there, a constellation of my mother's most cherished moments, scattered across the undeserving canvas of my stepsister. Half the jewelry that is supposed to be mine, that Dad promised me, is already part of Cassie's bridal fantasy. My blood runs cold, then hot. The shock is a physical thing, a wave of nausea and fury that threatens to buckle my knees. I can't breathe, I can't think. All I can see is that necklace, that beautiful cursed necklace, and the smiling, oblivious girl wearing it. I back out of the living room, my movements stiff and robotic. I feel like a stranger in my own home, an intruder on this grotesque celebration. I stumble out the front door, the heavy oak swinging shut behind me with a final damning thud. The cool evening air does nothing to quell the fire in my chest. My fingers, still trembling, fly across the screen of my phone. I find the contact, the one person I know will understand, the one person who loved my mother almost as much as I did. "Emergency. Meet me at the storage unit in an hour." I hit send, my thumb pressing down so hard I'm surprised the screen doesn't crack. The recipient is my cousin Jake. He's not just family, he's my anchor, my co-conspirator, the keeper of my sanity in the years since Mom died and Linda moved in. The message is delivered. The timer has started. 18 hours. It's not a lot of time, but it's all I have. And I'll be damned if I let them win. I'm not just fighting for jewelry. I'm fighting for my mother, for her memory, for the pieces of her they're trying to steal, one glittering heirloom at a time. And I will get it all back. I don't wait for Jake's reply. I'm already in my car, a beat-up sedan that was my mother's, the engine turning over with a familiar, comforting rumble. The drive to the bank is a blur of red lights and angry horns. I'm cutting people off, driving too fast, but I don't care. The fury is a white-hot poker in my gut, and it's the only thing keeping me from falling apart. The bank is a cold marble mausoleum, the air still and silent. I walk straight to the counter, my heels clicking an angry rhythm on the polished floor. I need to see the access records for my family's safety deposit box. I tell the teller, my voice flat, devoid of the emotion churning inside me. The woman, whose name tag reads Brenda, gives me a practiced, placid smile. Of course, do you have the key? No, I say, my patience fraying. My father does, and my stepmother. I need to see who has accessed the box and when. Brenda's smile tightens. I'm sorry, but without the account holder present, I can't release that information. It's a matter of privacy. My mother is dead, I say, the words sharp and brutal. Her name is on the box. My name is on the box. And I have reason to believe my stepmother has been illegally accessing it. This is a matter of theft. Something in my tone, the raw, unvarnished grief and anger, must cut through her professional veneer. She looks at me, really looks at me, and her expression softens. She types something into her computer, her brow furrowed. After a moment, she looks up, her eyes wide with something that looks like pity. The box has been accessed 5 times in the last 3 months, she says, her voice low, by Linda Miller. 5 times. The number hangs in the air between us. 5 separate trips to plunder my mother's legacy. The nausea returns, stronger this time. I thank Brenda, my voice a hoarse whisper, and walk out of the bank, the truth a bitter pill in my throat. When I get home, I find Linda in the kitchen, humming to herself as she arranges a platter of ridiculously expensive cheeses. The scent of brie and entitlement fills the air. She looks up when I enter, her face wreathed in a self-satisfied smile. Oh, Maya, there you are. I was just getting a little something ready for the bridal party. They'll be here any minute. I walk to the counter and slam my hand down, rattling the cheese platter. You sold Grandma's diamond bracelet too? I ask, my voice quiet, but laced with a venom that makes her flinch. That bracelet survived the Great Depression, my mother's chemo, and 2 world wars. And you pawned it for your daughter's fairy tale? Linda's face goes white, the color draining from her cheeks like water down a drain. Her smile vanishes, replaced by a pinched, defensive look. I don't know what you're talking about. Don't lie to me, Linda, I say, stepping closer. I just came from the bank. I know you've been in and out of that safety deposit box like it's your own personal ATM. 5 times in 3 months. How much did you get for it? How much was my mother's life worth to you? Your father signed off on this, Maya, she says, her voice rising, a shrill, desperate edge to it. He agreed. We're a family now. We share things. We are not a family, I spit back, my control finally snapping. You are a parasite who latched onto a grieving man, and you do not get to share my mother's things. You do not get to sell her memory to the highest bidder. My phone buzzes in my pocket. It's Jake, on my way, and I'm bringing backup. The backup arrives 10 minutes later in the form of a grizzled, unimpressed locksmith named Sal, and my dad's old business partner, a man named Arthur Vance. Arthur had been my father's friend for 30 years, and he had been the one to handle the appraisal of my mother's jewelry during her divorce from her first husband. He knew every piece, every carat, every flaw. He was my secret weapon. Jake, bless his heart, looks ready for war. He gives me a quick, fierce hug. We're getting it back, Maya, he whispers in my ear, all of it. Arthur, a man of few words and even fewer smiles, nods at me, his expression grim. Your mother would be spinning in her grave, he says, his voice a low rumble. He looks at Linda, who has shrunk against the kitchen counter, her face a mask of panicked indignation. This is a disgrace. Sal, the locksmith, just raises an eyebrow. So whose wedding are we crashing? The pieces are moving. The plan is forming, a desperate, half-cocked strategy born of grief and rage. And as I look at Linda's crumbling facade, I feel a surge of something cold and sharp. Vengeance. Jake pulls up a document on his phone, an email from the wedding venue. He'd called them on his way over, pretending to be my father's assistant. The contract is ironclad, he says, a grim smile on his face. Cancellation or disruption of the ceremony for any reason results in the forfeiture of the entire $50,000 deposit. $50,000. The number hangs in the air, a beautiful, perfect weapon. Linda's eyes widen in horror. She's not just facing my wrath, she's facing financial ruin. The fairy tale is about to become a nightmare, and I'm going to be the one to write the ending. The jewelry store is one of those places that tries too hard to look old and established, with dark wood paneling and faded velvet displays. It smells of dust and desperation. The owner, a balding man with a nervous twitch and glasses perched on the end of his nose, looks at me like I'm a problem he doesn't want to solve. "Yes, I remember the pieces," he says, wringing his hands. "Lovely, truly lovely. A woman named Linda Miller sold them to me." "How much did you pay her?" I ask, my voice as cold and hard as the diamonds that should be in his display case. He fidgets, adjusting his glasses. "Well, that's confidential information, miss." Arthur steps forward, his presence filling the small, cluttered shop. "I am Arthur Vance," he says, his voice booming with an authority that makes the shop owner shrink. "I appraised that jewelry for the estate of Eleanor Grant. I know its value to the penny. And I can assure you, if you do not cooperate, this will become a legal matter involving the receipt of stolen goods." The man pales, his nervous twitch becoming more pronounced. He fumbles with a ledger on the counter, his fingers shaking as he flips through the pages. "Here," he says, his voice a squeak. He points a trembling finger at a series of entries. I look at the numbers and the breath catches in my throat. It's worse than I imagined. She sold everything for barely 30% of its appraised value. 30%. She hadn't just sold my mother's jewelry, she had practically given it away. The emerald necklace, valued at over $60,000, sold for 20. Grandma's diamond bracelet, a priceless family heirloom, gone for 5. It was a fire sale of my mother's life. "She was in a hurry," the shop owner mutters, as if that explains it. "Said she needed the money for her daughter's wedding." The bell above the door jingles, and a wave of cloying floral perfume washes over me. I don't have to turn around to know who it is. "What the hell do you think you're doing?" Cassie's voice is a shriek, sharp and ugly. She storms into the shop, a gaggle of bridesmaids trailing behind her like a flock of pastel-colored vultures. She's still wearing the necklace. The audacity of it takes my breath away. "I'm trying to get back what never belonged to you," I say, my voice dangerously calm. I turn to face her, my eyes locking on the emeralds at her throat. "That necklace doesn't suit you, Cassie. It looks cheap on you." Her face, already flushed with anger, turns a blotchy, unattractive red. "You're just jealous," she spits, the words a childish taunt. "You're a jealous, miserable bitch, and you're trying to ruin my wedding day." "This was my mother's," I say, my voice dropping to a whisper, but carrying more weight than her shriek. I point to the ruby ring on her finger, another piece I hadn't noticed before. "That ring! My mother got that from her grandmother, who escaped Russia during the revolution with nothing but the jewels she'd sewn into the hem of her coat. That ring is a piece of our history. It's a story of survival, and you're wearing it to a party." "She's dead, Maya," Cassie hisses, her voice low and vicious. "Dead people don't need jewelry." The words are a slap in the face. A cold, calculated cruelty that cuts deeper than anything Linda has ever said or done. In that moment, I don't just dislike Cassie. I hate her. I hate her with a pure, undiluted intensity that scares me. The shop owner is nervously fidgeting with his glasses, his eyes darting between us as if he's watching a tennis match. The tension in the small shop is a living thing, a crackling, spitting energy that makes the air feel thick and heavy. "I want to buy it back," I say to the owner, my eyes never leaving Cassie's. "All of it, right now." He swallows hard, his Adam's apple bobbing. I can't do that," he stammers. "Legally, I can't sell the pieces back without the signature of the person who sold them to me. Linda Miller would have to approve the sale." Of course. Of course it wouldn't be that easy. Linda has me trapped, her greedy signature a barrier between me and my mother's legacy. Cassie lets out a triumphant little laugh. "Looks like you're out of luck," she sneers. "Now, if you'll excuse me, I have a wedding to get to, my wedding, and I'll be wearing this necklace when I walk down the aisle." She turns, her bridesmaids parting for her like she's a queen, and sweeps out of the shop, the bell jangling mockingly in her wake. I stand there, frozen, the rage and grief a toxic cocktail in my veins. I step outside into the humid summer air, my skin burning while my mind goes ice cold. This isn't just about getting the jewelry back anymore, this is about making them pay. For every lie, every stolen memory, every casual act of cruelty. Cassie is right about one thing. She'll be wearing that necklace when she walks down the aisle, but she won't be wearing it for long. The drive from the jewelry store is silent. The rage has cooled, replaced by a cold, hard knot of determination in my stomach. Jake is at the wheel, his knuckles white on the steering wheel. Arthur sits in the back, his silence more damning than any words. She can't get away with this, I say, the words a raw whisper. There has to be something we can do. Legally, the jeweler is right, Arthur says, his voice a low rumble. Linda's signature is on the bill of sale. Unless we can prove she stole the items, which would be difficult since your father will likely say he gave her permission, our hands are tied. So that's it? I ask, the despair a rising tide. She just wins? She gets to sell my mother's life for a fraction of its worth and her daughter gets to flaunt it down the aisle? Jake is quiet for a long moment, his eyes on the road. Then, he pulls the car over to the side of the road, the engine idling. He turns to me, his expression intense. I have an idea, he says. It's a long shot, but it might work. My girlfriend Sarah, she works at the county courthouse, in the records department. I look at him confused. What does that have to do with anything? When Linda married your dad, Jake says, his words slow and deliberate, did she ever legally adopt you? The question hangs in the air, a sudden, unexpected twist in the road. I rack my brain trying to remember. I was a teenager when they got married, angry and grieving. I wanted nothing to do with Linda, let alone be her daughter. I remember some talk of it, some papers my dad had wanted me to sign. I had refused. No, I say, the memory solidifying. No, she never did. I wouldn't let her. My dad was angry about it for a while, but he eventually dropped it. A slow smile spreads across Jake's face. It's the first real smile I've seen all day. I thought so, he says. Sarah owes me a favor. Let me make a call. He steps out of the car, his phone to his ear. I watch him pace back and forth on the sidewalk, his voice a low, urgent murmur. Arthur is looking at me, a glimmer of something I haven't seen before in his eyes, hope. If she never adopted you, he says, the legal implications dawning on him, then you are your mother's sole heir. Your father is the executor of her estate, but he is not the owner of her personal property. He is a custodian. He had no legal right to allow Linda to sell those items. They belong to you, and only you. The words are a revelation, a key, turning a lock I didn't even know was there. The knot in my stomach begins to unwind, replaced by a surge of adrenaline. This changes everything. Jake gets back in the car, his smile wider now. Sarah is a miracle worker, he says, his voice triumphant. She's pulling the records now. The marriage license, your mother's will, the estate filings. There's no record of an adoption. None. You are legally, indisputably, the sole heir to your mother's personal effects. He looks at me, his eyes shining. Linda didn't just sell your mother's jewelry, Maya. She sold stolen property. And you are the legal owner. I lean back against the headrest, the relief washing over me in a dizzying wave. For the first time in a long time, I feel like I can breathe again. The despair is gone, replaced by a sharp, clear sense of purpose. Linda thinks she's won. She thinks she's standing on the precipice of her greatest triumph, her daughter's perfect, jewel-encrusted wedding. But she's wrong. Tomorrow, she's going to discover that her perfect daughter's wedding has become a very expensive lesson in ownership, and I'm going to be the one to teach it. I smile, a real, genuine smile for the first time in weeks. I pull out my phone, my fingers steady now. I scroll through my contacts, past Jake, past Arthur, until I find the number I'm looking for. The wedding planner. I press the call button, the sound of the ringing phone, a sweet, sweet promise of the chaos to come. The game has changed, and now I'm the one making the rules. The wedding venue is a monstrosity of white columns and manicured lawns, a place that screams new money and bad taste. It's the kind of place my mother would have hated. The sun is just beginning to rise, painting the sky in soft shades of pink and orange. It's a beautiful morning for a disaster. I'm not alone. To my right stands a sheriff's deputy. a man named Henderson who looks like he's seen it all and is perpetually unimpressed. In my hand, I'm clutching a sheaf of legal documents, a shield and a sword all in one. The restraining order naming both Linda and Cassie is on top. We walk up the sweeping stone steps, our footsteps echoing in the early morning stillness. The front doors are unlocked. The lobby is a cavernous space, filled with an obscene number of white roses and the faint, lingering scent of last night's cleaning products. Linda is standing by a table laden with champagne flutes, still in her silk robe, a coffee cup clutched in her hand. She's directing a frazzled-looking florist, her voice already sharp with bridal mother stress. She looks up as we approach, a flicker of irritation on her face. "Can I help you?" she asks, her tone dismissive. Then she sees me, and the deputy. Her face freezes, the color draining from it for the second time in less than 24 hours. "Maya," she says, her voice a strangled whisper, "what are you doing here?" "I'm here to collect what's mine," I say, my voice ringing out in the cavernous lobby. I hold up the restraining order, the paper trembling slightly in my hand. "Every piece of jewelry, every family heirloom, every single thing you stole from my mother's estate." Her jaw drops. She looks from me to the deputy, her eyes wide with a mixture of fear and disbelief. "You can't be serious," she stammers. "Oh, I'm deadly serious," I say. I hand a copy of the court order to the wedding planner, a woman with a headset and a clipboard who has appeared at Linda's side, her face a mask of professional concern. "This is a court order. It states that Cassandra Miller and Linda Miller are to have no contact with me and are to immediately return all property belonging to the estate of Eleanor Grant. That includes the jewelry they are currently in possession of." "You can't do this!" a voice shrieks from a nearby doorway. It's Cassie, her hair in curlers, her face slathered in some kind of pre-makeup goo. She's clutching the collar of her fluffy white robe, a look of pure, unadulterated fury in her eyes. "The ceremony starts in 4 hours. My photographer is on her way. My guests are flying in." "That sounds like a personal problem," I say, my voice devoid of sympathy. "Deputy Henderson will now escort you to the bridal suite to retrieve my property." The deputy, who has been silent until now, clears his throat. "Ma'am," he says to Cassie, his voice a calm, immovable object. "If you'll please cooperate, we can do this quickly and quietly." The wedding planner is frantically whispering into her headset, her eyes darting between me, Linda, and the deputy. The florist has frozen mid-rose fluff, his mouth hanging open. The whole perfect, pristine morning is imploding, and I am the one holding the detonator. Linda's composure finally cracks. Her face crumples, the carefully constructed mask of the grieving widow turned happy new wife, shattering into a million pieces. A sob escapes her lips, a raw, ugly sound. "I had to," she whispers, the words tumbling out in a desperate, pathetic rush. "I had to give her the wedding she deserved. I didn't have the money. I took out a loan." She trails off, her eyes wide with a new, dawning horror. "A loan?" I ask, my blood running cold. "What kind of loan?" She looks at me, her face a mess of tears and desperation. "Against the house," she confesses, her voice barely audible. "I took out a second mortgage. I thought I could pay it back after what? After she married off her daughter? After she sold off the last vestiges of my mother's life?" The revelation hits me with the force of a physical blow. This isn't just about the jewelry anymore. It's about the house, my mother's house, the house I grew up in. She was willing to risk everything, my home, my inheritance, for this one day of gaudy, overpriced celebration. I realize in that moment that this isn't just about greed. It's about desperation. A deep, gnawing desperation to buy her daughter a life she could never have. To purchase a happiness that was always just out of reach, and she was using my mother's legacy, my inheritance, as her currency. The rage returns, cold and sharp and clear. This is no longer just a recovery mission. It's a reckoning, and it's only just begun. The church smells of old wood and lilies, a cloying, funereal scent that seems horribly appropriate. Guests are already seated, their murmurs a low hum in the high-ceilinged sanctuary. Sunlight streams through the stained glass windows, casting colorful, distorted patterns on the stone floor. It's a beautiful, serene setting for a complete and utter implosion. We're in the narthex, the small space between the main doors and the sanctuary, and it has become a war zone. Cassie is half dressed in her wedding gown, the bodice zipped, but the skirt a frothy, uncooperative mess around her waist. Her face is a blotchy ruin of tears and running mascara. Linda is vibrating with a rage so intense it seems to make the air shimmer around her. The wedding planner is wringing her hands, speaking in hushed, frantic tones on her phone. My father is there now, his face a bewildered, ashen gray. He looks from me to Linda to Cassie, his eyes wide with a confusion that is rapidly turning to anger. Maya, what is the meaning of this? He demands, his voice shaking. You're ruining your sister's wedding. She's not my sister, I say, my voice steady, my gaze fixed on Linda. And I'm not ruining anything. I'm taking back what was stolen from me. The jewelry is in a velvet bag on a small table, a pathetic little pile of my mother's life. Deputy Henderson stands beside it, his arms crossed, his presence a silent, immovable wall. You want to destroy this family? Linda shouts, her voice echoing in the sacred space. Her composure, her carefully crafted persona, is gone, stripped away to reveal the raw, grasping desperation beneath. Fine. You want your precious mother's jewelry? It's buried with her. I sold replicas, cheap imitations. The real stuff is gone. It's a desperate last-ditch lie, a final, pathetic attempt to seize control. The guests in the sanctuary have fallen silent, their heads turned, their eyes wide. This is better than any wedding ceremony. I know, I say, my voice calm, almost conversational. I reach into my bag and produce a manila envelope. I toss it onto the table next to the jewelry. It lands with a soft, satisfying thud. I had everything appraised 3 months ago, when I first noticed pieces were missing. I knew something was wrong, I just didn't know how wrong. I tap the envelope. These are the real police reports. For theft. Filed this morning. You're lying, Cassie whispers, her voice a thin, reedy sound. But her hands are already reaching for the emerald necklace, her fingers fumbling with the clasp. I let her. I watch as she turns it over, her eyes searching. The real emerald necklace, I continue, my voice clear and carrying, has a tiny chip on the back of the largest stone. My mother dropped it once when she was sick. She was so upset, but I told her it just gave it character, a little flaw to prove it was real. Want to check, Cassie? Linda's face goes ashen. Her eyes meet mine, and in them, I see it all. The realization, the defeat, the dawning horror of knowing that she has been outmaneuvered, outsmarted, and utterly, completely exposed. She thought she was playing chess, but I was playing a different game entirely, and I had been 10 steps ahead this entire time. Cassie lets out a choked sob. She's found the chip. The proof of my mother's life and of Linda's lies is right there in her hands. The deputy steps forward, the handcuffs in his hands making a soft, metallic click. It's the loudest sound in the church. The wedding guests are murmuring, their whispers a rising tide of shock and scandal. Linda Miller, the deputy says, his voice formal, official. You're under arrest for grand larceny and insurance fraud. My father stares, his mouth agape, as the deputy cuffs Linda's hands behind her back. He looks at me, his eyes filled with a dawning, horrified understanding. He finally sees. He finally understands the woman he married, the viper he welcomed into our home. The beautiful, serene church has become a stage for Linda's downfall. The lilies smell like justice, and as they lead her away, a crying, pathetic shell of the woman who had tried to steal my mother's life, I feel a sense of peace settle over me. It's over. It's finally over. As they lead her past me, her face a mess of tear-streaked makeup and shattered pride, I lean in close, my voice a whisper only she can hear. Some people are worth more dead than alive, I say, the words cold and sharp. But Mom's jewelry was always worth more than your daughter's wedding. A flicker of something, hatred, understanding, regret, crosses her face before the deputy pulls her away, out of the church and out of my life. 6 months later, I'm standing on a stage, a diploma in my hand. I'm wearing a simple black dress and my mother's pearls. They're cool against my skin, a familiar, comforting weight. The emerald necklace is at home, but the pearls felt right for today. A symbol of wisdom, of a future she never got to see, but that I am now living for both of us. Linda took a plea deal. She avoided jail time, but she didn't avoid the consequences. Community service, a hefty fine, and a reputation that is now in tatters. She and my father are divorced. He sold the house, our house, to pay off the second mortgage and the mountain of debt she'd accumulated. He calls me sometimes, his voice full of a regret that sounds genuine but feels too little, too late. We're polite, but the chasm between us is too wide to bridge. He understands now why I moved out, why I couldn't stay in that house with her, but understanding doesn't heal the years of willful blindness. Cassie's fairy tale ended before it even began. Her fiancé, a man whose love was apparently as superficial as his spray tan, left her a week after the disastrous wedding that wasn't. The last I heard, she was working at a department store in the mall, in the handbag section, trying to pay off the mountain of debt from a wedding that never happened. Sometimes I imagine her selling purses to women who can afford them, her hands, once adorned with my mother's history, now just ringing up sales. Jake is here, of course. He's in the audience, cheering louder than anyone. After the ceremony, he helps me carefully pack the pearls back into their velvet box. He helped me organize all of the jewelry, what I recovered from the pawn shop and what was left in the safety deposit box, into a proper display case in my new apartment. It's a small place, but it's mine, filled with light and memories of my mother, not ghosts of a life that was stolen. Every morning, the light from my apartment window catches the emerald necklace, sending prisms of green light dancing across the walls. It's a constant reminder, a reminder of my mother's strength, of her love, of the legacy she left behind. A reminder that some things are precious not because of their monetary value, but because of the stories they hold, the lives they represent. They say living well is the best revenge, but I don't think that's true. Sometimes, the best revenge is simply taking back what was always yours.